or other personal practice, nor is the information presented deemed to be accurate or verifiable.
Hey, good humans. Good evening, everybody. Your host here, Enouty Gill. Oh my gosh, y'all. I don't know if you know, and if you don't, you're about to learn how much work goes into putting a podcast together. So funny story, when someone asked me about 6 weeks ago at this point, I should have a podcast. They said, why don't you start a podcast? And I'm like, yeah, great idea. What a great idea. The first thing I did was spend 2.5 hours on my phone coming up with great ideas on the different episodes. And then the next thing I did the next morning or afternoon was text my friend, our producer, Everett, and say, hey, let's do a podcast. This sounds wonderful. Or it was more like, I'm going to do a podcast. And he's like, great, I got you. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to do this professional. But the amount of work that goes behind it is really incredible, because we want to every week give you, or every episode, maybe one day we'll do every week, give you a really great show. So I am excited. I've got a team of people behind me just rooting me on, and really for you guys, because every time we come to you, you show up and you want to hear from these awesome humans. Like our first episode last 2 weeks ago, Brian Marr. I hope that many of you were able to watch and tuned in. If not, I hope you caught it on YouTube right after, or the many times that we shared it. But there were so many incredible gems that he gave us. There was laughter. There was inspiration. He talked about his youth growing up. He talked about his mentor, the people he works with, his family. But one of the things that he shared, which is obviously one of the questions that I always like to ask, is what it is for him, what a good human is. I'd like to share this clip with you all to remind us of that answer. And if you weren't there, I hope this motivates you to join us and keep coming, or to go back and watch Brian's episode. So here are Brian's words on what is a human, a good human.
So for me, a good human is someone who cares so much about people that they take care of themselves. And what I mean by that is, you can't help anybody if you don't strengthen yourself, your core, have that confidence in who you are. Being a good human isn't doing so much for other people that you burn yourself out, or that you help people too quickly. To be a good human, you need to inform yourself. You need to continually educate yourself.
Continuously educate yourself. Self-care, take care of ourselves. Gosh, there's so much in that. Earlier this week, I posted something. I hope many of you saw it. I was driving into work and the light was green, but I couldn't go. So first of all, if you know me, you know that I'm always running a little behind, just a little. And my first reaction was to like, there was what I'm assuming, mama duck, papa duck, maybe the whole family, because there was like 4 or 5 adult ducks and a whole bunch of baby ducks crossing the road. And wow, what a moment to remind us to slow down. Part of self-care, part of taking care of ourselves, like Brian says, is knowing when we're doing too much. It's knowing when we have to set boundaries. Shout out to my friend Brittany, who earlier in the meeting is like, no, you can't say yes to that. And I'm like, oh, no, yeah, I can handle it. I can do another PowerPoint. I can do it. She's like, no, you can't, because this is what we talked about, being able to say no. And that to me also feels very relevant in the informing and educating ourselves, because if we don't learn about the things that impact us, the things that trigger us, if we have mental health challenges, I have ADHD. I think I shared that in the last episode. And as a neurodivergent person, I have to remember quite often that I need a lot of tools in place to be able to be effective in a project. A lot of tools. But you know what else I need to do? I need to communicate my needs to folks and let them know I'm sorry, or maybe not apologize as often. But hey, I just need a little extra time on that. Or maybe this is the reason why I was so scattered. Or no, you're right. I shouldn't add something else. So educating ourselves about our self-growth, just like Brian says, super important when it comes to being a good human. But to his exact point, we can't be a good human if we're not good to ourselves first. So self-care. Thanks, B, for that wonderful little nugget. So I want to say hello to some of the people. If you see me looking between screens, it's because this time I want to be prepared and see who's on here. Oh, look at that. So I can say hello to folks, right? Joanna, thank you so much for being here. A friend, a colleague from a really long time ago. Oh, Britt, I see you. Thank you so much for being here. I see so many wonderful friends. Thank you for supporting. If you're not already watching on YouTube, please, please, please go check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, and watch from there, or watch from both places. I won't be too mad at y'all. Make sure you include the @ sign. YouTube expects it. So it's at The Good Human Chronicles, right? You can find us at The Good Human Chronicles, Facebook, Instagram, but please, please subscribe, like, follow, share, all that good stuff. And feel free to write comments in. I've got my 2 most incredible social media managers handling my social media. That would be Gabe and Allie. Nice job, you guys. But let's get straight to it. Today's episode, When Our Worlds Collide. I'm really excited about today's guests because he is someone that I have had a lot of challenging conversations with. Earl and I have had some awesome conversations where I'm like, Earl, I have this great idea. Or he's like, oh, Inaudi, I think we should do this. And I'm like, no, not doing it. So it's actually quite interesting the way we have our relationship, because it works, man. It's awesome, because I believe very strongly in keeping people around in your life who challenge you to grow and to think outside the box, and who challenge you even in your values, right? Even when you think you've got something, and even when you think you're like, what if, right? This still feels right to what I believe and what I subscribe to. But what if there's a different way of doing it? And no better person than to share with today, again, my friend, Human Rights Commissioner Earl Miller. Let me read to you a little bit about this wonderful individual. Actually, this is not about him. He's going to share about himself now. But I love what promotion he came up with, and that is, what do Orange County's Human Rights Commission, Chamber of Commerce, Humanity Focused Solution, Fam Life Counseling, New York State YMCA Foundation, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Mexico City, Hong Kong, the Philippines, Hawaii, Kiev, Ukraine, Beirut, Lebanon, and Gold's Gym, random, have in common? It's Earl Miller, the man who believes in the importance of faith, family, community, service, and love for humanity. Earl, it is such an honor to have you on this episode.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Hey, listen, I always have fun hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And I think we challenge each other, and through those challenges, we grow.
Agreed.
I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
The day I stop learning and growing, or the day I think I stop, which, by the way, is going to come in my 80s, because, Earl, come on, be honest. There has to come a time where we're like, all right, that's it. I'm throwing the towel. I'm done learning. I know it all already. Does that ever happen?
Yeah. Where there's life, there's growth.
Oh, man. No. I don't know, Earl. That sounds exhausting. How about 85? Can I have it at 85?
It's your life.
Okay, fine. I hope you're around when I'm 85 and you remind me that.
Yeah, that'll be great. I may just hang around to be able to do that. Okay.
Exactly. Oh, I love it. I love it. So, Earl, in your own words, please tell us about yourself.
I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Uh, I describe myself as a child of the civil rights movement.
Mm,
Uh, I literally grew up uh, playing with children of noted civil rights leaders, uh, community activists. We used to run around in the basement while there were strategy meetings and community meetings going on. Uh, as a boy, I heard Dr. King speak on several occasions.
mm,
Uh, my family has a history of being involved in the church in Atlanta. My grandfather was a Baptist minister. He worked with Dr. King's and father and grandfather at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. Um, so we not only ended up being exposed to the movement sort of on the ground and
mm,
sort of behind the scenes, but also I was part of the generation that walked through the doors that our elders opened for us. And one of the things that we learned
mm,
that it represented another phase of the movement because the doors may be open, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're welcomed.
mm.
Um, so that was sort of my background, and probably to a great extent, part of the motivation behind the things that I'm doing today. Uh, I ended up working my way partially through school, through college, as a professional actor.
Get out of
And
here. I didn't know that.
that's what brought me to New York. And by the time I arrived in New York, I had all three of my professional uh, union cards for
Okay.
stage, screen, and television. And I worked in all those arenas
Mm.
until,
There's always an until.
right, there was a moment of spiritual uh, revelation and
Mm,
recognition of a sort of higher purpose for my life. And, you know, sometimes people change because they're down and out. Uh, Actually, in my situation, I was down and up, but I really wasn't satisfied with the things I acquired. Um, I do. I just Let me just sort of interject this idea. We're all here for a purpose, and sometimes we can do the things that we are told that we need to do, the things that seem to be the logical steps for success in life. But I think when we sort of go back to that sense of our purpose,
mm.
we will find fulfillment in life like no other way. And so I ended up moving out of theater and television and the film work that I was doing. I also worked as an arts educator.
Mm.
I still have
Wait,
a number of
let's
friends
go
who
back to purpose.
are still in the business, but
Tell me about
uh,
the purpose. How did you figure out your purpose?
you know what? It's funny. As a child, and maybe even more so, let me say, as a teen, I used to in my bedroom. There was a commercial, E.F. Hutton commercial, and it said, "When E.F. Hutton speaks, everyone listens." Right? This individual would be in a room, and they would get ready to speak, and everyone would go quiet. Uh,
Mm,
I just sort of had a sense that it related to God's purpose for my life,
mm,
why I was why I was here on earth. And I thought performing was the avenue for that expression. But when I realized it wasn't, I had to go back and sort of steel myself. And I sort of looked at my life. I had a lot going on. Uh, and
So it's
again,
interesting
time
that
for a change. So
right.
that's how I
Yeah.
sort of, and I'm still pursuing that, you know.
Absolutely. And that's important because our purpose, I did a panel one time where it was a multi-generational panel. So there was someone in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And I was the one representing the 40s. And the moderator asked, something about have you found your purpose or, how did you find your purpose? Something like that. And the 20s and 30s year olds are like, yes, I'm happy. And when it got to me, I'm like, I think I'm still looking. I don't know. I'm not, but I don't want to stop looking.
Right.
Right. Because it's almost like I know the purpose of what I want to do, which is reach people,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It
Well,
looks
you know what?
different every year.
If you, I believe this sincerely. If you seek, it will find you. And I can't tell you how many experiences in my life that I've sort of. Sometimes I'm sort of remember Forrest Gump. How he would just
Yes.
always end up in these situations,
Yeah.
historical moments, right? Uh, that is sort of I can relate to that, and it's almost like the game coming to me. Athletes talk about that experience where you're sick or you're injured, and rather than going out with intentions of performing, you just show up, purposing to do the best you can, and the game comes to you.
So
I
let me
think that
ask you.
applies to life as well.
Yeah. And I'm glad this is a great segue into this, because when we talk about life, right? And when we talk about the things that apply for us, and you've mentioned faith and finding your purpose, right?
Mhm.
And for those, I'd like to even make a comparison, because many of our listeners may not have a belief in
Mhm.
God or in religion, right? Um, can you tell us, in your words, faith, what role does that play, right? I often speak with people, actually, who won't publicly necessarily say that they believe, right? Or that they don't, either way, right? It's kind of like left out. But I've spoken to folks who are really challenged with, do we bring that into the workplace? Do we not? What does faith do for us? How do we? This is when our worlds collide.
Yeah.
Faith, workplace, our challenges, our purpose, finding purpose, right? So this is a jam-packed question for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does faith, or the non-faith, right? How does that impact everything we do?
Well, let me just go back and to sort of complete my thought as far as finding purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I realized that I had the opportunity to connect with my creator.
Mm.
Who better to to use as a resource for finding my purpose and
Okay.
directing me on the journey that I'm here to walk. Uh, but in terms of the importance of faith, we all have faith. Are you sitting in a chair right now?
I am,
Right. Are you afraid that chair is going to drop you on the floor?
especially in the middle of a live show. I actually am a little bit, not gonna lie.
Well,
But most of the time, not really. Most of the time, I'm not even thinking about that.
okay.
Now I am, Earl.
Yeah.
Now I am.
My point is, it takes faith to
Mm.
believe that your chair is going to. We all have faith in something.
Mm.
And by the way, let me just sort of
And
qualify.
that could be the science of the chair is held up and strong with the screws and the right.
Right. But,
Yeah, that makes sense.
faith is really about what we believe and sort of what grounds us in this world, what sort of motivates us, and what gives us perspective as we move through life. Uh, I am not a religious person.
I'm sorry, Pastor Earl. Come again.
I am not a religious person.
Okay.
All
I'm
right. I do
shocked.
consider
Tell me
myself
more.
a man of faith.
Okay.
And I think there's a difference. With the religion, there's a lot of ritual, that things that we do to feel better, because we feel
Mm.
like maybe we're pleasing God, or we are, we're helping other people.
Mm.
But I think,
Maybe feel closer to God, if
well,
that's important to us, or feel like,
yeah,
yeah,
but listen,
feel
here's
grounded
the
in
truth
that
with
space.
faith. You can have a relationship,
Mm.
and I mean, how can God direct us uh, if we can't, in a sense, hear from God? And I don't mean that in a spooky way, but I mean, we see what we're looking for,
Mm.
right? If I'm right, we see
Yeah.
what we're looking. It's called confirmational bias.
It's actually called confirmational bias. There's a whole name
Exactly.
for it.
But so when we're looking for God in life, the ups and the downs,
Mm.
uh, we'll see God. we'll again, we'll see that game coming to us. We'll be drawn to where we should go and what we should do, um, to the better version of ourselves in that situation, if that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And I think that something that you have shared before when you talk about seeking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And receiving confirmation. I love the word and the idea of the things that ground us, right?
Right.
So for some, that may be faith and God. For others, that may be the information and the belief of knowing what's there, what's right. As a woman and a person who believes in God, one of the things that always helped me at the beginning of any time I'm doing public speaking or even the show like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where I am more nervous than I'd like to admit. At the beginning of this, I am, the people who know me are like, what, you're sure you're right? And I'm like, oh, because this is so new to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the 10 to 30 seconds right before that live hits, or right before I walk on a stage, or right before I turn on the Zoom, or even when I teach, right before I start teaching, I literally just say, I give it to God. It's what you want me to, it's what you want me to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this may sound a little different, but there's almost a disassociation that I cause of going forward. This is the message that needs to be heard will be heard, and it's a grounding feeling, knowing that I have the faith, because it's in faith. I sit in that faith of, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's that element of trust that's very much a part of faith.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, faith is stepping out before your foot hits the floor.
Yeah. So let's talk about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, because a lot of the work, you've been doing DEI work for a very long time, right? One of the things that you do is you do presentations on different, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And tell me about, there's a lot of challenge going on, especially right now in diversity and inclusion. There's also a lot of misunderstanding. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, of what it is.
Information, yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that work, diversity and inclusion work, and the challenges specifically. So not what it is, right? But more along the lines of the challenges that you're facing and what are you doing to,
Right. Well, I've been around long enough to sort of see the evolution of the work. I actually acquired my first diversity certification from the University of Oklahoma about 20 years ago.
Wow.
And that was followed not only other trainings, but also a master's in organizational leadership that focused on cross-cultural competencies. So I, just in a nutshell, here's my approach, because there's been such pushback since. There was this tidal wave of awareness following George Floyd's murder.
Back in 2020.
2020, right?
Yeah.
And now it was sort of coming down off that high.
Yeah,
Right.
so many large organizations and small organizations who made all these
That's
types
right.
of commitments and financial promises and investments in the last year or two. Studies are showing that they're gone.
Right. But I think an important element of DEI, a JEDI, is the fact that we are able to see people. And I like to do one of my favorite exercises. It really resonates with folks.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to look at your camera,
Okay.
and we're going to do Sawubona. It's a South African greeting of Zulu tradition.
Okay.
And for our purposes, it's going to go like this. I will say, I see you. And your response will be, I am here. Now,
Okay.
this isn't just a greeting. How you doing?
Right.
What's up?
Very intentional.
Right. We're going to be intentional. It's about creating a moment of connection.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
So I'm looking at you. I see you.
I am here. Earl, I see you.
I am here.
I get chills because to feel seen.
There's a South African same tradition proverb. We only exist when other people see us.
Mm.
And if you've ever gone into a room of people, even a circle of friends, and for whatever reason you aren't acknowledged, you're standing there and everyone's talking as if you're not there. I mean, how do you feel?
Mm.
Right. There was a reciprocity. There was actually a story about a young man who graduated from Harvard Law School, a young African American man from means, challenging means,
Mm-hmm,
who
mm-hmm.
could relate to the workers in the cafeteria at that particular part of the institution, the law school. And he decided one day just to start acknowledging those people and thanking them for their service. And in the interview with him,
Mm.
they were talking about how much it meant. One man said this: I didn't realize how unseen I was
Ooh.
until he actually acknowledged me. And this young man has gone on to create a non-for-profit where he actually annually gives out awards to those serving the community in various ways.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
so that power,
the power, yes.
a lot of the work that I do with couples, even, I
That's right, because you do
I talk about
practice,
being able to
right?
see one another, not only in terms of partners, but also in terms of parents and children.
Yeah.
Parents know their children, I mean, probably better than the child because they've watched them grow up, but they see them as their child. They don't
Versus
recognize them
a
as
person, a human
a
being.
human being, right?
That's it.
And in order to help them to grow and evolve, as a human being, you have to be able to acknowledge who they are.
Mm.
And
And that is what diversity and inclusion and equity, I think, is all about. It's
yes,
seeing everyone for who they are and what they bring to the table. I think many people get stuck on, some people get stuck on the threat, right? Of if we make room for this group, then maybe my group is going to get pushed out somehow, right? But really, the purpose of DEI is to make space for everyone,
right,
is to bring in,
right.
right? And when we talk about things like being seen, I've been told twice by two different non-binary individuals that I created a space for the first time in their professional spaces and professional careers here in their adult life, where they finally felt seen. And it was as simple as I had an exercise where when I asked everyone to introduce themselves, I asked them for their pronouns. And I know that it's a challenge for many people, and many folks don't understand, why do I need to have a pronoun? Like, you can obviously tell I'm this or I'm that. Or for the folks who don't believe in anything outside of the two genders, right? So that's a challenging topic, right?
Well,
How can we make sure that we acknowledge the humanity of someone who doesn't identify as male or female?
right,
And hold on to our values for those who feel like they're losing something, right?
right.
How do you go
I
about?
think it's about civility. And one of my favorites, actually, tomorrow morning, I'm going to play golf with a friend of mine. Let me tell you this story. So I'm out at a small practice course that I use on the other side of the river. I'm on the riverside of the county here in Orange.
Yeah.
And so I'm out playing one morning, and I end up joining this guy, and we're playing and we're talking. And at some point, I realized he has his hat on. And for the purposes of a conversation, I'm going to say it was a team hat,
Okay. Fair.
right?
Yep.
That wasn't my team, and
Was it a rival team?
a rival team.
All
And
right, come on, just tell
I
us. Be
thought,
honest. Tell us, who was the team?
and I thought, just listen to my story.
Fine. I like the juicy details, Earl.
So,
I like the juicy
so,
details.
so anyway, at some point, I felt comfortable enough to ask him about his hat because it was a nice looking hat. This wasn't one of those hats,
Right.
that we would normally see. This is a nice looking hat. It looked like it was from an exclusive golf course or something. It was a nice hat,
Okay.
except for the logo. So I said to him, I said, "Oh, I like that hat, but I noticed the logo." And he said, at first he said, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, it was a gift." I said, "Oh yeah, nice gift." And I said, "But do you support that team?" And he was a bit hesitant, but then he said, "Yeah, I do." And so then I asked, "Well, why do you support the team?" Right? And we had this incredible exchange to the extent that when we finished, and I wasn't expecting this at all, he said, "Hey, listen, can we exchange numbers? I'd love to play golf with you again." A couple weeks later, he calls me and invites me over to Poughkeepsie to play golf with him. And I ran into him the other day at that practice course, and he said, "I just joined a club here. I'd love for you to come and play around with me at my new club." And so I'm going tomorrow morning to play golf with him. Civility.
Yeah.
I love this definition. I came across a definition that gives this example of civility. It's when someone says something that offends you, and you respond kindly. So it's a lot more than just being polite. You see, you can go through the motions and be polite. Excuse me. That's fine. But civility requires us to be committed, to genuinely acknowledge the value of the other human being, and the interest to understand their perspective.
And that actually speaks to, you heard in the opening of the show, the importance of self-growth and the importance of continuous learning, right? I want our viewers to remember the importance of constantly learning, but that also requires the willingness to unlearn. And that could be a challenge. It could be a challenge to all of a sudden be told that after my 40 years of life believing one thing or knowing one thing, oh, the world isn't actually round, it's oval? Wait, but didn't we lose a planet recently, right? Or a few years ago? Turns out one of those wasn't a planet. And then a few years after, it's like, oh, wait, maybe it is. I just like that as well. Understanding the importance of constantly reading, exposing ourselves to different people, exposing ourselves with kindness and empathy. So I'm with you, right?
Yeah, I think we want to consider what side of history we want to be on.
Oh, yeah.
And, as the human race, we're running towards a goal. And, we can either run or be left behind. That's up to us. I want to go. I want to grow. I'm a former New York City marathoner. I ran 4 New York City marathons. And I know the work that's involved in preparing for that race. I know the challenges of completing that course. But those are the moments that I've felt so alive. Not just because of finishing the race, crossing the line and getting my medal, but enduring the challenges, running past the wall, finishing strong, that's all. That's what life is about.
So let me ask you, because this is the last question before we go into the rewind. Or not the rewind. In this case, it's the fast forward of your event coming up.
Okay.
That's what life is all about. What is being a human, good human, all about?
Mm-hmm.
We've heard a lot, empathy, self-care, we've heard, but what is being a good human all about to Earl Miller?
I know this is going to sound so simple.
Sometimes the best answers are.
Love. If I can put on my pastor hat for a moment, as a disciple of Jesus, the master taught the greatest commandment, because someone was trying to trick him one day. What's the greatest commandment? Over 600 different versions of the commandments, and so which one is the? And Jesus said to love God and to love others as yourself. That's it.
And what I love about that message is that for anyone who's listening and is like, well, what if I don't believe in God or Jesus? You can love others.
You can love others.
You can love others. You can love yourself. You can love others.
Yeah.
That's the message there.
For about 5 years, I served as a chaplain in a private treatment community. And I had to create curriculum, spirituality curriculum. I also had to do groups. And I created a group called the Handrails of the 12 Steps that met all of our clients, no matter how they believe, because according to the 12 steps, you have to first acknowledge your challenge, that it's bigger than you are. Then you have to believe that there's a power greater than yourself. Now, according to that tradition, you can determine what that power is.
Right.
Right. But it requires faith. And then, because after that faith, it's the step of committing yourself to pursuing the resource of that greater power.
Earl, I'm very grateful for all of it, for the reminders, for the grounding exercise, for all of it. For all of it. These conversations with you are always impactful for me. That our audience also really got. But I want to show because I have to start wrapping up, I want to show the flyer for the upcoming training that you're going to be doing. Can you tell us in a minute or so about History Matters, the Black Wall Street Tulsa Night?
Wall Street Massacre. When I was a boy, my mother told me on several occasions her memories as a girl, being in Oklahoma, and I grew up in Atlanta, and playing with Native children. And she remembered the massive oil wells. And it fascinated me as a kid. Years later, fast forward, I had a friend who attended college in Tulsa, and I shared that story with him. And I said, to this day, I haven't quite figured out why the family was out there. My grandfather was a Baptist minister, as I mentioned earlier, and my friend said, well, he's probably there for Black Wall Street. And I said, Black Wall Street, and so that was my introduction. Several years later, I was invited by the Rockland County Holocaust Museum and Study Center to be the speaker at their annual Crystal Knot celebration. And I was, first of all, surprised that they asked me to speak. And what am I going to talk about? I mean, I'm not Jewish, and
right.
Okay, I can study up on Crystal Knot, and then I remembered Black Wall Street, and it was such a great comparison between the two events. So that was my first occasion to share a presentation on Black Wall Street, and over the years it's evolved, and so now I've had a number of opportunities using different variations on the theme to present the story, to
So
to inspire and to
can folks
challenge.
join you? This is a Zoom, right? Is this open to the
It's a
public?
Zoom. Is being hosted by the Human Rights Commission of Orange County.
Woohoo, that's us.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And I do invite our listeners to join us. And I think something important about not only this, but other history related opportunities of growth and development. Dr. King said this: we do not make history, we are made by history. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but you know, to better understand where we are now and the potential of the future, we need to know our history.
Earl, thank you so, so much. We hope that folks will join us. The link is actually in the chat. There's also a QR code. But for anybody who wants to join us, Earl, this is where I let you go. But again, much, much love and gratitude for joining us tonight and sharing everything that you did. We're going to share both your website for your practice, your therapy practice, so that folks can stay in touch. I believe we also have your email address. Oh, no, here we go, humanityfocus.com. There's your email if anyone wants to chat, has a question, or wants to continue the conversation. Thank you, Earl. Really.
Well, listen, you're an incredible host. And let me just say this. You are even a more incredible human being. You have such incredible potential, and there's greatness in you. And I look forward to seeing more of that greatness in our community and beyond.
Thank you
so much again.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Woof, folks. I hope that everyone who is listening, who is watching, shout out to my family who's on here. I was able to see so many different people log in. But thank you. Thank you for coming. I hope that everyone was able to get a little something from this conversation. Good Humans is about podcast. Good Humans is about bringing different voices on, even if their voices are different. So if you're on this and you're agnostic, or if you're on here and you just don't follow religion, or I hope you got the message of love, of grounding, because it is so important. And I hope everyone got the message of the importance of surrounding ourselves with different people and differences. And finally, what part of history do we want to be on? I know I have my answer. Good Humans, I cannot wait for the upcoming episodes. We've got some incredible, incredible women who will be joining us in the next 3 episodes. I won't even tell you who they are yet, but look out, because it's going to be amazing. You are going to love them. Do not forget, follow us on Instagram. Like, follow, share away, all that good stuff. Follow us on Facebook. Same thing there. But please, please, please go to our YouTube page, subscribe to that channel, and make sure you're watching. And share this video when we share it out, because there may be someone out there who really needs to hear this message. So with lots of love and gratitude, Good Humans, this is Inaudi signing off. We will see you, and I will figure out how to stop hitting this microphone one day. We will see you on 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks. Episode to be determined. Much love, my friends. Ciao.